Hey, y'all. It's the Tar Heels Insider Podcast. I'm your host, Grant Chachere, the beat writer for your North Carolina Tar Heels, bringing you all the latest news in regards to UNC athletics. Tomorrow is the big day. UNC will be playing Clemson at noon on ESPN. And Ludacris will be performing at 9:45. So if you're up and about it, you're going to the game, stop by a Ludacris concert. 9:45. Bring your orange mimosas with you and roll on. You had to throw in the Ludacris first there. The Ludacris reference there. But anyway, this is a huge week for North Carolina. Of course, you have the football game. Of course, you really get to see how far this UNC team can go. Right. I mean, these next three games are going to be very important for UNC. I know I've said that, no, this is the most important stretch for UNC, but no, it really is. Because, you've got Clemson. Yes, Clemson is to a degree beatable. It's not very, they don't have a likely chance of beating Clemson, but it's a very beatable Clemson team. You're kind of catching them at the right moment. But at the same time, you're also catching them at the wrong moment, right? This could be a very pissed off Clemson team. Then, of course, you got the bye week. Then you travel to Cal, which is a very tough road trip because of the travel. You're traveling 3,000 miles across the country from coast to coast. And also time zones, right? Remember, when the game's being played in California, it would be 10:30 here, right? Because the game starts at 7:30 in California. The game starts 10:30 here, right? And then, of course, you got Virginia, who looks really good right now. They just beat Florida State, who's a very good team themselves. And we really get to see how great Virginia is. Are they just a good, solid team in the ACC, or are they a great team? Because if they beat Louisville, they might be in a playoff discussion. I'm not going to lie, y'all. Like, they look really good. And their offense is really good. So, this is the first stretch of 3 or 4 very important games for UNC. Like I said, the month of October is the most important month for not only just for UNC, but for any football team, because it's the meat of the schedule. This is where you get to see your tougher teams. You start conference play, you name it. So very, very important month for North Carolina. And Clemson is probably the most talented team in the ACC. Their record doesn't show it, but they're still a very talented team. And it's been shocking just how bad they've been. And I wouldn't say bad. Like, they're not Florida State bad, right? They're not losing against, like, Memphis by 2 touchdowns, and they're not that bad, but they're not what we're used to seeing from Clemson. This is the first time they started 1-3 in a season since 2004. It's been a little while, y'all, and they're 85th in total offense. Their average is 365.3 yards per game. They're the 53rd best passing offense in the country with 249 yards per game. 87th in the country in yards per completion, averaging 11.19 yards per completion, and that's 14th in the ACC, by the way. So they're in the bottom half of that category. They're averaging 116.3 yards per game, which is 111th in the country. They're 101st on third down, averaging. They only have a 36% chance of converting a third down. 101st in turnovers lost. 93rd in red zone offense, which benefits North Carolina some way, because North Carolina's defense is one of the better ones in the country when it comes to being in red zone situations. And they're 120th in time of possession, averaging 26 minutes and 46 seconds per game when they have the ball. But however, their offensive line is still pretty decent. They haven't allowed too many tackles for loss. They're 4th in the country in tackles for loss, and they're 25th in sacks allowed. So they're still a solid offensive line. But the issues really have been Cade Klubnik. Cade Klubnik has been a turnover machine. He's only completed. He's barely completed 60% of his passes for nearly 1,000 yards and 6 touchdowns. But he's also had 4 interceptions and a fumble lost. So he's had 5 turnovers in the last 4 games. That's a turnover per game. So, or interception per game and a turnover per game, right? So He really hasn't been that good. I mean, Adam Randall has been a solid back, even though Clemson's rushing offense has been, poor. Adam Randall's having a good year. 57 carries for 343 yards, 5 touchdowns, and averaging nearly 6 yards per carry. So he's a really good back. However, they haven't been able to get any other production from the rest of the running back room. He's really the only one. And he's also had 13 catches for 81 yards and a touchdown. And what makes it so shocking about just how bad the offense has been is that they have one of the better receiving corps in the country. Brian Wesco, 24 catches for 389 yards and 5 touchdowns. TJ Moore, 15 catches for 164 yards. Tyler Brown, 13 catches for 128 yards. So, I mean, those are pretty good numbers 4 games into the season. And then on top of that, Antonio Williams is finally getting back in the form because he had dealt with some injury issues earlier on in the season. He got hurt during LSU and really hasn't gotten a chance to play this season. One of the better receivers around the country. So it's just shocking how bad offensively they have been. Defensively, it's kind of the same thing. They've been average, man. They're 73rd in total defense, averaging 362 yards per game. They are 93rd in the country in passing defense, averaging allowing 240 yards per game. Rushing defense, solid numbers, 122 yards per game, which is 49th in the country. Decent to average, I guess you could say. But they're 69th in third down defense, 69th in turnovers gained, 60th in red zone defense, 39th in sacks, which is decent, and 33rd in tackles for loss. So this has been an average to pedestrian defense, and we're not really used to seeing that from Clemson. It's just not it just hasn't been Clemson's year, However, they still have a very good defensive line. Will Holt, TJ Parker, two of the best defensive ends in the country, one of the best pass rushing duos in the country. Will Holt has 18 tackles, 6 tackles for loss, and 3 sacks. CJ Parker, 14 tackles, 2.5 tackles for loss, and 2 sacks. And then their interior is really good. Of course, Peter Woods, 22 tackles for the year, a half a tackle for loss. But he's also had 11 stops, which is plays that aren't, that get stopped before first down or result in, negative yardage, not negative yards, but no positive momentum for the ball carrier. I guess you could say that. DeMonte Capehart. So you also get DeMonte Capehart, 12 tackles, 2 tackles for a loss, a sack, and 7 stops. Stephon Green, 11 tackles, a sack, and 4 stops. Sammy Brown, Woody Wadaz, 2 really good linebackers. Woody Wadaz has 38 tackles, 2 tackles for loss, and pass breakup. Sammy Brown, 29 tackles, 3.5 tackles for loss, a sack, and a pass breakup. And their most notable defensive back is Avion Terrell, 23 tackles, 2.5 tackles for loss, a sack, 7 pass breakups, and 2 forced fumbles. So they still have talent, right? This is still a very talented Clemson team. I know the record says 1-3, you are where your record says you are. They haven't been playing good, but just because you haven't been playing good doesn't mean that you're not a talented team. And really, what the problem with this team is that there's not, but outside of the receiving core and the defensive line, there really isn't much depth. There really isn't. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that Dabo has refused to use the transfer portal. He's refused to use NIL to his advantage. Clemson's got the resources needed to stay alive in NIL, in the NIL era, in the transfer portal era. But Dabo's so stuck in his ways that you get this result. And I think some of it is, you can make a case that the players who are starting, they have a superiority complex. They get to do whatever they want because there's no competition. And so when you don't have any competition, nobody's hungry. And you get what you get. I mean, yes, the defense has 3 potential first round draft picks and Peter Woods, TJ Parker, and Avion Terrell. Like, this is still a very talented Clemson team. I just think that because there's a lack of depth, and lack of depth has really hurt Clemson, especially in the running back room, right? Adam Randall's the only guy you have. And by the way, Adam Randall was a receiver last year for Clemson. He's a wide receiver convert. So there's really no depth whatsoever. And because of the lack of depth, it causes bodies to be tired, causes the team to be tired. And also because there's no competition, the team thinks that, we're good, we can coast. And so it just leads to this result. I still think this is a Clemson team that's going to come to Chapel and beat the Tar Heels. That's just my personal opinion, just because I think that North Carolina has not done enough offensively to convince me otherwise. And that's not, and like, I'm not hating. I'm not going to, it's just a mess right now. And it's from the coaching staff down. I think defensively, I think North Carolina will be fine. But offensively, I don't think so. I think it's still going to be an issue. But that's going to wrap it up for today's podcast. We'll have 2 podcasts tomorrow. One will be a kind of a 4 keys to victory for North Carolina, and then the other one will be the course of post game recap, because it's a noon game. We get a chance to shoot 2 podcasts in one day, so I'm looking forward to that. But thank you guys so much for watching. My name is Grant Chachere, the beat writer for North Carolina Tar Heels on SI, and of course the host of the Tar Heels Insider Podcast. Make sure to follow us on Twitter at Tar Heels on SI. Do the same thing with Facebook, North Carolina Tar Heels on SI. And also make sure to follow me on both Twitter and Facebook. Just look at my name, Grant Chachere. It should be one of the first people to pop up, because I think I'm truly the only Grant Chachere on earth. My last name is a very unique last name. You can only find it in a few places. It originates from Louisiana. It's strictly Louisiana name. So you will be able to find it. You will be able to find it. So, but anyway, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys later.